Seth Trimble is back at North Carolina, decided to return to Chapel Hill for his senior season. Riley, I think this is something that's going to help out the Tar Heels, certainly.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you say that, Ralph, just because he's a little bit polarizing in UNC circles right now, just because obviously he has some really high highs. You have to look no further than Maui this past season, where he was one of the few bright spots for UNC in a tournament in which they went 1-2. But he had 27 and 10 against Dayton. He hit the three to send the game to overtime against Michigan State. Like, he had his moments. He's just suffered a concussion, I believe, in early January, and never quite found his form since then. But I think personally, I'm on the side, like, I'm a believer that he might have another level to reach. I don't know. He averaged 12 points a game this year. I wouldn't say he's going to get to like 17, 18, 19 or whatever, but I think there's a world in which he gets to 15 a game or something like that, and maybe gets a little more aggressive, while I would say like simultaneously honing in his shot selection and just taking better shots en route to becoming one of the, I mean, what's the word? How do I want to put this? Not like he was pretty much like the fifth option on this year's past team.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe that's an exaggeration, but being like a second or a third option as opposed to someone who's I would say more of an afterthought. And if he gave for most of the season outside of the non-con, it was like, oh, if Seth Trimble gives you double figure scoring, you're feeling pretty good, but more of like a primary option this year.
Yeah, and I think they're going to need him to be, but also like for his opportunity. Last year, you were behind RJ Davis and even like Ian Jackson in terms of the scoring pecking order, the offensive
Hmm.
pecking order. And this comes after being behind RJ Davis and Caleb Love, right? So like you just go down the list. There hasn't been the opportunity for him to really crack in there. This first part of the season, as you mentioned, before the injury, before Ian Jackson really got going, in November, he was averaging over 16 points per game. And then in December, he was averaging almost 13 per game. So like that's the guy you get, somebody who gets you 14, 15 points per game from the perimeter for a whole season. I think
Hmm.
you look at that as a huge win, particularly because he was also giving you 5 boards a game and almost 2 assists per game. If you get that guy for a whole year, especially with what he brings offensively, I think you're feeling really, really good about it if you're North Carolina. Because we talked in December about him being like one of the biggest breakout guys in the entire country. And then
Yep.
of course
Yep.
things kind of got derailed after that.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. Like, to even speak into the angst of the Carolina fan base or why he's like so polarizing, I think there's a good chunk of UNC fans who would rather Carolina go after a Rodney Rice type or someone who's more proven as a three-point shooter at that two guard spot. And I see that side of the argument just with RJ Davis moving on. I mean, that's 18 points per game, 21 points per game the year before that you're having to replace. And Carolina still hasn't found a point guard yet. So I think that only adds to some of the frustration right now. I don't know, man. Like, there's part of me that's like, yeah, in a vacuum, would I rather Carolina go after more of a bucket getter at the two who's a little more proven? Probably. But I also like,
We interrupt this sleepers video to talk directly to you, our loyal listener. Have you ever found yourself watching us two idiots thinking, hey, I wish there was a very easy, small way for me to show a token of my appreciation for all of their hard work on all these videos I love to watch? Well, now we have just the way to do that.
Thanks to the beautiful folks over at Underdog Fantasy. They are helping us out this month, presenting a lot of the content coming out this month, giving you a chance with a amazing offer that you can use using our promo code that Gregory will tell you more about.
Yeah, so college hoop season's over, but we got like big time golf tournaments. The NBA playoffs are coming. Baseball season's underway. There's still a bunch of sports on. There's still a bunch of ways to play with Underdog Fantasy. Promo code SLEEPERS. As a new customer, you can get up to 1,000 bonus credits plus a free pick. It's one of the most fun ways to play. It's a great way to support us. And on some actual like non-ad read stuff, talking genuinely here, really helps us because if Underdog loves us, if we get a lot of people to sign up, they're going to help us continue to bring you the content that you love. Show your support. Join Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code SLEEPERS. Get up to $1,000 in bonus credits and a free pick.
I just don't really see that happening. I think to that extent, our friends over at Inside Carolina have been on top of reporting on UNC this past spring and everything. And they've said repeatedly on podcasts that this is a make or break year for Hubert Davis. Like, he's got a lot of questions to answer and a lot of achievements to hit, or he probably won't be here next year. And I honestly kind of think it makes sense that he's going to lean on Seth Trimble, who's been his guy. Like Seth Trimble
Yeah.
was he was the second high school prospect he signed after taking the job. This is someone who I think he trusts a lot, maybe to a fault sometimes, because I think Trimble has some holes in his game. But like, I just am not surprised that that's who Hubert's going to default to, is the guy who he trusts, the guy who's been with him the past 3 years to help save his job and extend it beyond this upcoming year.
Yeah, I think you look at the negatives of Trimble's game, right? They were, I think, accentuated by the roster makeup last year, where
Mhm.
obviously
I'm with you.
there was no interior presence at all, and all your guards were tiny. So him being a tiny guard had to play out of position a lot to make up for it, because he does bring the physicality, because of how good he is defensively. And so if you're able to slide him into a more traditional, maybe not point guard, but being a
Mhm.
two and not
Right.
having, a 6 foot LA Cadeau and a 6 foot RJ Davis next to him, it makes more sense than him trying to overcompensate for, trying to play 6, 7 wings defensively.
I
I think that'll help.
I mean, yeah, people might forget like Seth Trimble went into Cameron Indoor and started at the four and guarded Cooper
Right.
Flag. Like,
Right.
I don't think that was a good coaching decision. I'm not defending it, but like he was out of position for most of the year. And I think if you look at like the two point guards who Carolina seem to be the highest on right now are Xavier Lee, which, like, surprise, surprise, everybody who needs a point guard wants him, and Kyan Evans from Colorado State. I think both of those guys would fit really well next to him. Like, Lee is the dream. I mean,
Oh
Lee
yeah.
would be a perfect fit next to him, because it's like you have someone who's going to get almost all the on-ball minutes, who's so crafty off the bounce, who's a really good passer as well. And Seth can kind of focus on his role, which would be guarding the other team's best guard, like being
Mhm.
that point of attack defender, and expending a lot of his energy on that. Because I would say, like, there were some times this year where I thought Trimble's defense was pretty inconsistent, where he let guys blow by him, and there wasn't quite that lockdown on-ball defense that we had seen in years prior. But having like the craftiness of Lee would free him up to just hopefully hit corner threes and attack closeouts and get into the paint. There are times where I think Trimble still he goes into the paint without a plan and will throw up a contested shot, but I still think he showed a lot of progression in that area of like kind of going to his mid between game, whether it was a floater or just attacking the basket with more of a plan and more efficiently. With Evans, on the other hand, he's not the shot creator that Lee is, but I think just having his shooting gravity and his ball handling would still kind of free
Yeah.
Seth up to do what he's needed to do. And the big thing is like both those guys have decent size. Like Lee 6'4", Evans is I think 6'2", maybe
Yeah.
6'3". We'll go with like a very generous 6'3" for Kyan Evans. And yeah, I just think him not playing next to two small guards will really help his defense and his offense.
We talk all the time about how situation and fit often dictates like how good NBA draft prospects are, their rookie deals and transfer fit. But you don't talk about it a lot with guys who are coming back to their schools. But I do think the situation in terms of the backcourt at UNC this year is going to be vastly different than it has been the last couple of years under Hero Davis. And I think that does bode well for Trimble and Trimble's success, as long as he can get back to playing at the level he was at, November, December before the concussion.